One of the most important parts of programming is controlling the flow of execution. It is really important when we are trying to exit a loop prematurely, and we want to skip a part of the code, or we want to have a space for our future code. Python provides us with break, continue, and pass statement in order to achieve this. In this video tutorial, we are going to work on these statements, look at some examples, and try to get in depth. So let's get it started. First, we are going to work on a break statement. So what it does, whenever a break statement is executed, a loop terminates and the control flows to the next statement in the code. Let's have an example to understand it in depth. So over here, I'm going to say for I in range, I am saying 1 to 11. If I equal to 5, then I'm going to say break, and then I'm going to have a print statement. Let's run this code and see the output. So what was supposed to happen? The code was supposed to write from 1 to 10, but when the value of I reached equal to 5, the break statement was executed. The loop was terminated, and we are getting the output from 1 to 4. This is how we can use a break statement when we want to exit a loop prematurely. Now let's move to another statement. Continue statement. So what does the continue statement do? Whenever a continue statement is executed, the code below that would not be executed in the same iteration. The control flows to the next iteration, and this is how a continue statement works. Let's understand this with an example. So over here, I'm going to say for I in range 1 to 11, if I equal to 5, continue, and print I. Let's run this code and see the output ourselves. Okay, so as we can see, we are getting value from 1 to 10, but 5 is not being printed. Because when the value of I is reaching 5, we are executing a continue statement and the control is flowing to the next iteration. The statement print is not getting executed. So this is how we can use a continue statement when we want to move to a next iteration and skip the rest of the code. Really simple, guys. Now we are going to work on another statement, that is pass. Pass statement is actually a placeholder for future code. When we want to write a syntactically correct code, but a code that is not doing anything, there we use a pass statement. Let's have a look at the example so that we can understand that in depth. So over here, I'm going to say for I in range 1 to 11, if I equal to 5, then just pass and print the value of I. Now let's run this code and see the output ourselves. So as you can see that nothing is happening. When the value of I is reaching 5, we are just using a pass statement. But the use of the statement is in the future, we can make any changes. So this is how a pass statement works in Python. Now let's move to some practical examples. First, we are going to see break statement in nested loop. How a break statement works in nested loops. So actually, if there are two loops and we are using a break statement, only the innermost loop will get terminated. There would be no effect on the outermost loop. Now let's take an example and see it ourselves. Over here, I'm going to say for I in range 3. Then I am going to say for j in range 3. If I equal to 1, then break, otherwise print. I am going to say I give the value of I, and j give the value of j. So what we have done over here, we have taken two loops for I in range 3 and for j in range, and we are having a condition on when I equal to 1, then break, otherwise we are printing the value of I and j. Now let's run this code and see the output ourselves. So what's happening when the value of I is equal to 1, we are using a break statement. So the innermost loop, that the loop for j in range 0 to 2, it's getting terminated. So but the outer loop is not getting affected. This is how we can use a break statement in nested loop. Now let's work on the same thing, continue statement in nested loops, how it can be done and what it will do. If you're using a continue statement in nested loops and there are two loops, the innermost loop will move to next iteration and the outermost loop will not be terminated or move to next iteration or anything like that. Let's understand this with an example. So over here, I'm just going to copy this code and I'm putting comment on this one. So over here, I'm just going to say for I in range 3, for j in range 3, if I equal to 1, just continue. Okay, pretty simple, guys. Now let's run this code and see the output ourselves. Again, we are seeing when the value of I is reaching 1, we are just moving to the next iteration. And we are not terminating the loop, we are just moving to the next iteration. So this is how a continue statement in nested loop works. So now you have understood the value of break, continue, and pass. Now let's use all the three statements in a single code so that you'll be able to understand everything in depth. So over here, I'm going to say for I in range. So we are taking the range from -5 to 5. Now suppose we don't want to print any negative number. How we can do that? I'm going to say if I is less than 0, just uh, just continue. Don't print the negative numbers. Then we are going to say elif I equal to 0, just do nothing. And when I'm say when the value of I is greater than 3, then just break the loop. Otherwise, just print I. Let's run this code and see what's exactly happening in depth. Okay, we are getting the output 0, 1, 2, and 3. So what's happening? Let's look at the code and try to understand every statement. So we are iterating a loop from value -5 to 4. First, there's a condition if the value of I is less than 0. So if there's a negative number, we are using a continuous treatment. So the control will flow to the next iteration. Otherwise, if value of I is equal to 0, when the value of I is 0, then do nothing. When the value of I is reaching more than 3, so that would be 4, just break or terminate the loop. So now you have understood how we can use a break, continue, and pass statement whenever we want to exit a loop prematurely or we want to skip the same iteration and we want to have a safe space for the future code. This is how simple a break, continue, and pass statement, and they are really important in controlling the flow of execution in Python.